Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan. This is my platform where I do fight sports related content. If you're new here, why don't you help me grow my platform? All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like it, and maybe hit that bell icon to get notified every time I upload a video. With that said, in this video, I'll be breaking down the upcoming main event between Calvin Kattar and Dan Ige, headlining one of the UFC Fight Island cards. It's actually a pretty important fight in the UFC's Featherweight division's pecking order. On one side, you've got Calvin Kattar, who's coming off a big win over Jeremy Stephens, and actually in his fight with Zabit Magomedsharipov, despite losing, he showed the world just how good he is and showed the world actually there is some holes in Zabit's game. Now, is that because Zabit's not as good as he's made out to be, or is that because Calvin Kattar's a lot better than he gets the credit for? I think it's the latter, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this fight plays out. He fights Dan Ige, who finds himself on a nice 5-fight win streak coming into this fight. He's of course coming off that controversial win, however, over Edson Barboza, but he's got some really good wins on his ledger. He's been around for a little bit of time now, and he's been consistently showing himself to be a credible force at 145. So this is an important fight for both men, and the winner of this will probably walk away and put themselves maybe a win or two away from potentially fighting for a belt. So that's a very, very interesting place to be. With that said, let's get into the tape and let's break this fight down. Calvin Kattar is still very young, still got tons of time to grow into the game. He's still only 32 years old now. 32, of course, it could be seen as a bit later in the game at 145, but he hasn't been around for that long. He's been fighting at the top of the top higher end of the sport since just a few years now, so he hasn't really taken that much wear and tear. His fights, he don't take too much damage. He looks very healthy. He still looks to be in the prime of his career athletically, of course, and I think he's got plenty of time to grow and shine, and he's got a high roof to achieve in the UFC. He fights Dan Ige, who's much younger at 28. Well, I say much younger, it's only 4 years. But at 28, he's still, of course, in his physical prime as well. So both of these men are not meeting each other when either of these guys are washed up. They're meeting at a good time. And the truth, same can be said for experience as well. Calvin Kattar's got a record of 21 wins and 4 losses. And Dan Ige has a record of 14 wins and 2 losses. Now, of course, Calvin Kattar's had a few more fights, but the UFC experience is not that dissimilar from each other. I believe Calvin Kattar is 5-2 in the UFC, whereas Dan Ige is 5-1 in the UFC. So despite the fact that Calvin's had a few more fights, I don't think under the spotlights is going to make that much of a difference, even though this is Dan Ige's first main event, whereas Calvin has of course shared the ring with Zabit in a main event and has been on UFC pay-per-view main cards before. But I actually think it'll be fine in terms of experience. I think this is a good matchup all round. Calvin Kattar stands at 5'11" inches tall, which makes him 4 inches taller than the 5'7" Dan Ige, and that's going to be where really the difference starts to show, especially when you consider the styles that they both enjoy fighting in. Calvin Kattar has a 72-inch reach, which gives him a 1-inch reach advantage over Dan Ige. Now, if you consider that alongside with a 4-inch height advantage, that 1-inch reach advantage is a little bit more than the 1 inch that the paper will tell you. Of course, the movement, the way they fight, the boxing, the length that the punch has to travel, it all matters, and I think Calvin Kattar is going to be able to utilize that really, really well. To describe their styles, Calvin Kattar is of course a boxer. That's where he shines. He's got big power in his hands. Now, of course, he can do it all on the feet. He's got really good footwork. He's got really good, fight IQ. He knows how to move well. He's got really good defensive wrestling. I think he's shown himself to be a well-rounded fighter, but where he shines, in my opinion, is in his boxing and his footwork. Now, Dan Ige, he's kind of like a tank of a man. He likes to charge forward, move forward. He doesn't like to take a step back. But he's actually a very, very decorated grappler. He's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's got some credentials in judo, and he's actually wrestled for a long time as well. I believe he was a All-American wrestler, or if he weren't an All-American wrestler, he definitely was in the circuit in Division 2, I believe it was. So he's a very, very talented grappler, and that's a part of his game that we haven't really necessarily seen as much. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how he chooses to fight this fight against Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, if he's got any issues, it's going to be susceptibility to leg kicks. Now, Dan Ige just walked away from a fight with Edson Barboza, so maybe he's taken a thing or two from Edson and he can bring that into this fight. And I, of course, talk about the fight with Renato Moicano, where Calvin Kattar kind of really showed his susceptibility to leg kicks in that fight. And for Dan Ige, if there's going to be any issues, is that, well, he likes to strike, and I think he's a very linear fighter. He walks in straight lines going forward and backwards. He hasn't really got footwork. He ain't going to cut angles, and I think for a technically superior striker like Calvin Kattar, that's something that he can quite easily get a read on, and I do favour him to be able to understand his style. If there's an X factor for Calvin Kattar, it's going to be his footwork and his power and his punches. Of course, his boxing is much more crisp. That's going to be a huge X factor as well. For Dan Ige, if there's an X factor, it's actually going to be his ground game. If he's able to get it to the ground, it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do there with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with some background in judo with his decorated wrestling pedigree. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this fight plays out as the fight hits the ground. Let's get into the prediction. With all that said, I think with Calvin Kattar's footwork of course being a good form of takedown defense, Calvin Kattar's boxing, the fact that he probably won't be throwing too many kicks and he's not going to give his opponent that many opportunities to set up a takedown, I think it's going to be really hard to say that this fight does get taken down. And even if it does become a clinch scenario and it does become a takedown opportunity, he may not have the wrestling that Dan Ige does, but I would be willing to bet that he's probably the physically stronger man of the two. And I think because he is the physically stronger man of the two, I think he'll be able to, you know, pull out the defensive wrestling and be able to stop any takedowns in this fight. With that said, I think Calvin Kattar is going to be able to keep this fight on the feet, and on the feet I think he's going to enjoy a decisive advantage. I think he's going to be able to outbox him, he's going to be able to outmaneuver him with his footwork. He'll be able to avoid any powerful punches, and as the fight wears on, he's shown us that he gets stronger and stronger. Of course, the beat will tell you that. And as the fight wears on, I think we're going to see the difference and the gap in the skill set start to show more and more and more and more and more. And the stylistic matchup that Dan Ige proposes, especially on the feet, walking forward all the time, I think that suits Calvin Kattar and he's going to get boxed up. I think Calvin Kattar will win this fight. So fight fans, for my official prediction, I'm going with Calvin Kattar to get a unanimous decision on this one after utilising his footwork and boxing for the best part of the 25 minutes to be able to get the win. Anyways, fight fans, why don't you guys comment below? Let me know how you see this fight going. Hope I didn't too much today. I'm actually not feeling the best, but I'm still putting out content for you guys, still obviously working away and putting out content for you guys. So hope the content wasn't too bad. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you're new here, remember to like, subscribe, share the video, all that jazz. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm Rohan and this is Mindful Combat.